Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Lainey Mercer pressed her back against the brick wall of the Alberta Arts District coffee shop, watching Coulter through the window. He sat at their usual table, fingers dancing across his phone screen with the same intensity he once reserved for her. 3 years together, and she could read his moods like weather patterns. Today felt like a storm brewing. The engagement ring caught the afternoon light as she pushed through the door. 6 months since that night in Bend when meteor streaks painted the sky and Coulter dropped to one knee beside the mountain cabin. She'd said yes before he finished asking, her heart hammering against her ribs like a caged bird finally seeing open sky. "You're late," Coulter said without looking up. His voice carried that edge she'd been hearing more often lately. Traffic was hell. Lainey slid into the chair across from him, studying his face. The charm that first drew her in sharp jawline, easy smile, eyes that crinkled when he laughed sat rigid now. Distant. "We need to talk about the wedding." He finally lifted his gaze, and something cold moved behind his brown eyes. "The venue wants final numbers by Friday." "I know. I've been handling it." She kept her voice steady. Years of rebuilding herself after her father vanished had taught her to mask uncertainty. The caterer confirmed for 80 guests. "Your mom sent the final invite list." Coulter's jaw tightened. "That's what I wanted to discuss." The words hung between them like smoke. Lainey felt her stomach drop, but her expression never changed. She'd learned that trick at 15 when her father packed his bags and left her mother crying in the kitchen. Never let them see you break. "What about it?" "I've been thinking." He leaned back, arms crossed. "Maybe we're rushing this." Rushing? The word came out sharper than she intended. "We've been engaged 6 months. Together 3 years." "I know, but—" He ran his hands through his dark hair, a gesture she once found endearing. Now it looked rehearsed. "Work's been crazy. The Henderson account is consuming my life. I can barely think straight." Lainey watched him perform his explanation, noting how his eyes drifted to the window instead of meeting hers. This wasn't about work. She'd built her graphic design business from nothing. She understood pressure. This felt different, calculated. "What are you saying, Coulter?" "I need space. Just a little time to get my head clear." The words rushed out now, like he'd practiced them. "Maybe we should take a break. Just temporarily." The coffee shop noise faded to white static. Break. The word her father used before he disappeared forever. The word that meant someone was already gone, but too cowardly to say it directly. A break. She repeated it slowly, tasting the betrayal. From the wedding or from me? From the planning, the pressure, everything. His voice softened, trying to sound gentle. "A few weeks, maybe a month. Then we'll figure things out." Lainey set her coffee cup down with deliberate care. Her hands remained steady, even as fury burned through her chest. "And what about us? What about the relationship?" "We stay committed to each other. No one else gets involved." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "I just need to clear my mind. You understand, right? You're the most understanding person I know." Understanding. Another performance word. She pulled her hand away. "If we do this, and I'm saying if we have rules." Her voice dropped to business mode, the tone she used with difficult clients. "No contact for whatever time period you need. No other people. Period." Relief flickered across his features. "Of course. I wouldn't. I'm not finished." The steel in her voice stopped him cold. "You come back when you're ready to marry me, or you don't come back at all. No middle ground. No figuring things out. Yes or no." Coulter nodded quickly. "Yes, absolutely. I love you, Lainey. This is just about timing." She studied his face, memorizing the lie. "Okay." 2 weeks of silence stretched like a desert. Lainey threw herself into work, designing logos and brand packages for small businesses with mechanical precision. Her apartment felt larger without Coulter's presence, but also cleaner. Less chaotic. Reva Sloane burst through the door without knocking, arms full of takeout containers and righteous anger. That's it. I'm staging an intervention. I'm fine. Lainey didn't look up from her computer screen. Just busy. Fine. Reva's boots thudded across the hardwood as she marched to the kitchen. You've been holed up here for 2 weeks, like some kind of hermit. When's the last time you showered? Yesterday. It was today, but Reva didn't need details. When's the last time you checked social media? That made Lainey pause. She'd avoided Instagram and Facebook since the break started, knowing Coulter's digital footprints would only twist the knife. Why? Reva's expression shifted from frustration to something darker. Pity mixed with rage. Oh, honey. What? Check your phone. Lainey's Instagram app opened to a wall of Coulter's activity. Photo after photo from the past week. Coulter at restaurants she didn't recognize. Coulter hiking trails they'd never visited together. And in half the pictures, a familiar face with platinum blonde hair and perfect teeth. Geneva Blair, his ex-girlfriend from college. The one he claimed was ancient history and not worth discussing. They went to the coast. Reva's voice came from somewhere far away. Posted pictures from Cannon Beach yesterday, the spot where you said you wanted to honeymoon. Lainey scrolled through image after image. Geneva's hand on Coulter's shoulder, both of them laughing at some private joke. A dinner shot with 2 wine glasses and intimate lighting. The timestamp showed 3 days ago. He's not even trying to hide it. The words felt thick in her throat, but no tears came. Just white-hot fury that settled in her bones like molten metal. Breaks are bullshit, Reva said, settling beside her on the couch. They're just cowards' way of cheating with permission. Lainey set the phone down carefully. Her mind was already working, calculating dates and logistics. The wedding's in 6 weeks. You're canceling, right? I'm keeping the date. She turned to face her best friend, and Reva actually stepped back at whatever she saw in Lainey's expression. I'm keeping the venue too. What are you planning? I'm not sure yet. Lainey's smile felt sharp enough to cut glass. But if Coulter wants to ghost me, fine. He doesn't get to rise from the grave and expect a wedding. 5 weeks. 35 days of complete silence from the man who promised to love her forever. Lainey sat in Reva's tattoo studio, surrounded by the buzz of needles and smell of antiseptic, watching her friend work on a client's elaborate sleeve. Still nothing? Reva asked without looking up from her work. Radio silence. Lainey flipped through a portfolio of Reva's designs, her mind elsewhere. His mom called yesterday asking about the wedding arrangements. I told her to ask her son. What did she say? That he's been going through a rough patch, and she's sure he'll come around. Lainey closed the portfolio with more force than necessary. Apparently Geneva's just a friend helping him work through his feelings. The tattoo needle stopped buzzing. Reva's client, a college kid with more courage than sense, winced as she paused midline. His mother said that, word for word, and you didn't burn the house down because I have a better plan. Lainey stood and walked to the window overlooking Alberta Street. The wedding invitations went out 3 weeks ago. 78 people RSVP'd yes. The venue's paid for. Foods ordered. Photographers booked. Lainey, I called everyone this morning. Wedding's still on for Saturday at 3. She turned back to face Reva, whose expression had shifted from concern to fascination. Same date, same place, same time, but without the groom. Oh, he'll be there. Lainey's smile could have powered the entire block. He just won't know what he's walking into. The tattoo needle resumed its steady buzz. Reva's client closed his eyes, probably wondering what he'd stumbled into. "What exactly are you planning?" "Justice." Lainey pulled out her phone and showed Riva a folder labeled Evidence. Screenshots of Coulter and Geneva's social media posts. Text messages from mutual friends reporting sightings around town. A receipt from their romantic dinner at Kennard that someone had photographed and sent her. "I'm going to tell the truth. Publicly. In front of everyone who matters to him." Rivas set down her needle and gave her full attention to Lainey's face. "You sure about this? Once you blow up his world, there's no going back." "He blew up mine first." The words came out steady and cold. "I'm just returning the favor." The knock came at 7 a.m. on Thursday, 2 days before the wedding. Lainey had been awake since 5, reviewing her speech and checking the venue arrangements one final time. She knew who it was before she opened the door. Coulter stood in the hallway holding coffee and croissants from their old favorite bakery. His hair was freshly cut, his beard trimmed, and he wore the blue shirt she'd bought him for Christmas. Every detail calculated to remind her of better times. "Hey, beautiful." He held up the paper bag with a sheepish grin. "Peace offering." Lainey stepped aside to let him in, keeping her expression neutral. "You look good." "Thanks. I feel better. Clearer." He set the coffee and pastries on her kitchen counter like he belonged there. "That break was exactly what I needed. 5 weeks is a long break." "I know. I'm sorry about the radio silence. I needed to completely disconnect from everything. Figure out what I really want." He moved closer, reaching for her hands. "And what I want is you. Us. The wedding. Everything." Lainey let him take her hands, studying his face. The charm was back, full force, confident smile, warm eyes, the slight tilt of his head that used to make her heart skip. Now it felt like watching a performance she'd seen too many times. "What changed your mind?" "Being away from you." His thumbs traced circles on her knuckles. "I realized I was just scared. The commitment, the responsibility of marriage. But that's no excuse for hurting you. And the wedding planning stress. We'll hire someone. Take all the pressure off." He pulled her closer. "I want to marry you, Lainey. Saturday, if you'll still have me." She let him kiss her forehead, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with something else, something floral and expensive that definitely wasn't his usual soap. "I called off the wedding. The lie came easily. Cancelled everything when you disappeared." His face fell. "Everything." "The venue, the caterer, the photographer." She pulled away, watching him process the loss. "I couldn't keep arrangements for a groom who might not show up. But we can fix this, right? Call them back? I'll pay the rebooking fees, whatever it costs." Desperation crept into his voice. "My parents are flying in tomorrow. My brother took time off work. Let me make some calls." Lainey moved to the kitchen, creating distance between them. "See what's still possible." Relief flooded his features. "You're amazing. Most women would have. Most women wouldn't have waited 5 weeks for a ghost to remember he had a fiancé." The words hit their mark. Coulter's confident facade cracked slightly. "I deserve that." "Yes, you did." She poured coffee into 2 mugs, her back to him. "Where have you been staying?" "Hotel downtown." Needed neutral space to think. Another lie. She'd seen Geneva's Instagram stories from her Hawthorne apartment building. But Lainey just nodded and handed him his coffee. "I missed this," he said, settling onto her couch like the past 5 weeks hadn't happened. "Missed you." "Missed me enough to call." "I thought about it every day. But I was afraid if I heard your voice, I'd cave before I figured myself out." He set down his mug and reached for her again. "Can you forgive me?" Lainey let him hold her, feeling his arms around her waist and his chin on her shoulder. Once this embrace was safety. Home. Now it felt like a cage. "We'll take it slow," she said finally. "See how Saturday goes." The hollow note squatted between a vintage clothing store and a used bookshop, the kind of dive bar that survived by being too stubborn to die. Lainey pushed through the heavy door into dim lighting and the smell of old wood and whiskey. Deontay Wells sat at the piano in the corner, fingers dancing across keys that had seen better decades. Her cousin noticed her immediately, nodding toward the back booth where Riva waited with drinks already ordered. He came back. Lainey slid into the worn vinyl seat. Accepting the whiskey, Riva pushed toward her. And he wants the wedding back on. Acted like nothing happened, like 5 weeks of silence was just a minor misunderstanding. Riva's expression darkened. What did you tell him? That I'd canceled everything. He's panicking about his family flying in. Lainey took a sip of whiskey, letting it burn away the taste of Coulter's lies. He offered to pay rebooking fees. Generous of him, isn't it? Lainey pulled out her phone and showed Riva the latest evidence she'd collected. Geneva posted this an hour ago. The Instagram story showed Geneva's bathroom counter covered in men's toiletries. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable, Coulter's electric toothbrush and prescription bottle. He's living with her. Has been for weeks. Lainey put the phone away. But he's standing in my kitchen, talking about missing me and taking things slow. Deontay finished his set and joined them, sliding into the booth with the fluid grace of someone who'd spent decades performing. You look ready to commit murder. Just considering my options. Lainey turned to him. You know everyone in the city. Any connections at Geneva's work? Why? Because I want to know if she knows about Saturday. Deontay and Riva exchanged glances. Her cousin drummed his fingers on the table, a pianist's habit when he was thinking. I might know someone, he said finally. But Lainey, whatever you're planning. I'm not planning anything illegal. She met his concerned gaze directly, just public. The bar's back door opened, and Harper Lynn emerged from the kitchen carrying a bus tub full of clean glasses. Lainey had seen him around the neighborhood soft-spoken bartender who worked at 3 different places to make rent, the kind of guy who remembered everyone's drink order and never asked uncomfortable questions. Until tonight. Excuse me. Harper set down the glasses and approached their table. I don't mean to intrude, but I overheard you mention Geneva. Geneva Blair. Lainey felt her pulse quicken. You know her. We dated. For 2 years. Harper's expression was carefully neutral, but something pained flickered in his green eyes. Until about 3 months ago. What happened? She started seeing someone else. Married guy, she said. Going through a divorce. He laughed bitterly. Except I found out he wasn't married. Just engaged. And the divorce was really just him asking for space from his fiancée. The air left Lainey's lungs. Coulter Wynn. You know him. I'm the fiancé. The words came out flat and hard. Harper's face went pale. Oh, shit. I'm sorry I didn't. Don't apologize. Lainey leaned forward. Tell me everything. Harper looked around the bar, checking for listening ears, then slid into the booth beside Deontay. They never stopped seeing each other, even during your break. Geneva told me they were planning to move in together after he handled things with you. Handled things. Her words, not mine. Harper's voice was gentle but firm. She's been planning to be at your wedding. As his date. Riva's whiskey glass hit the table hard enough to slosh amber liquid onto the wood. She what? Geneva thinks he's calling off the wedding Saturday. Public humiliation, she called it. Her chance to make a statement about choosing her over his safe choice. Harper met Lainey's eyes. I'm telling you this because I know what it feels like to be lied to by someone you love. Lainey felt something crystallize in her chest. Not heartbreak that had already happened. This was pure, focused rage distilled into diamond-hard clarity. What time Saturday? She's planning to arrive during the ceremony. Make an entrance. Harper hesitated. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. You should tell her everything. Deontay's voice carried the weight of family loyalty. Every detail. Saturday arrived with unseasonable warmth and cloudless skies. The kind of perfect weather that mocked everything wrong in Lainey's life. She stood in the bridal suite at McMenamin's Kennedy School, wearing the dress she'd chosen 8 months ago when marriage still felt like promise instead of punishment. Reva zipped the back with gentle precision. You sure about this? Never been more sure of anything. Lainey checked her reflection one last time. The dress was simple ivory silk that skimmed her knees, nothing fancy or traditional. It would work just as well for what she had planned as it would have for the ceremony she'd originally imagined. Your speech ready. Memorized. Lainey picked up the folder containing everything she'd need. Screenshots, printed text messages, timeline of events. 5 weeks of evidence, compiled with the thoroughness of a prosecutor. You have the microphone ready? Deontay's handling sound. Harper's working the bar. Your cousin's got your back. Reva straightened Lainey's hair one final time. We all do. And if I lose my nerve? You won't. Reva's smile was fierce and proud. I've watched you rebuild yourself from nothing once. You're not the same girl who let her father disappear without a fight. A knock interrupted them. Lainey. Coulter's voice carried through the door. Can I see you for a minute? She opened the door to find him standing in the hallway wearing his wedding suit navy blue with the tie she'd chosen. He looked handsome and nervous and completely unprepared for what was coming. You look beautiful. He stepped closer, reaching for her hands. I can't believe we're really doing this. Neither can I. The truth of that statement almost made her laugh. I know I messed up with the break. I know I hurt you. His grip tightened on her fingers. But I want you to know after today, nothing will ever come between us again. I believe you. Another truth, though not the way he meant it. I love you, Lainey Mercer. I know you do. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, tasting the cologne that had been masking another woman's perfume for weeks. See you out there. The ceremony space buzzed with conversation as guests took their seats. 78 people who'd carved time from their Saturday to witness what they thought would be a celebration. Coulter's parents sat in the front row, his mother dabbing at her eyes with tissues. Her own mother had flown in from Phoenix, radiant with joy that her daughter had found someone worth keeping. Lainey watched from the doorway as Coulter took his position at the altar, flanked by his brother and best friends. He kept checking his watch and glancing toward the entrance, waiting for someone who wasn't coming. Yet, the music began not wedding marches, but Deontay's jazz arrangement that flowed like water over the assembled crowd. Lainey walked down the aisle alone. No father to give her away because she'd learned long ago that she belonged to herself. Coulter's face lit up when he saw her. Pure relief and love and anticipation for the life he thought they were about to begin. In another timeline, that expression might have been enough to make her forget everything that had happened. But Geneva's perfume still lingered in her memory. Lainey reached the altar and took her place across from Coulter. The officiant, a friend of Coulter's family, opened his mouth to begin the ceremony. Wait, Lainey said clearly. Before we start, I have something to say. Confusion rippled through the crowd. The officiant looked uncertain, glancing between Lainey and Coulter for guidance. Lainey. Coulter's voice was low and concerned. What's going on? She turned to face their guests, her voice carrying clearly through the space without need for amplification. Some people break promises. Some people break people. Today I break the pattern. What? Coulter reached for her arm, but she stepped smoothly away. 5 weeks ago, the man standing beside me asked for a break from our relationship. He promised in public, with witnesses, that he would remain faithful during this time, that no outside relationships would interfere with our commitment to each other. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Coulter's face had gone white. He lied. Lainey pulled out her phone and the folder of evidence. While I waited for him to figure out his feelings, he was living with his ex-girlfriend. They traveled together, posted romantic photos on social media, made plans for after he handled things with me. Lainey, stop. Coulter's voice cracked. This isn't, we can talk about this privately. I tried talking privately. You were too busy to answer your phone. She showed the first screenshot to the crowd. This is from 3 weeks ago. Coulter and Geneva at Cannon Beach, the place he told me was too expensive for our honeymoon. Gasps echoed through the space. Someone in the back started whispering urgently to their companion. Lainey, please. Coulter stepped toward her, desperation replacing confusion. You're hurt, I understand, but this isn't the way. This is from 2 weeks ago. She held up another image. Dinner at Canard, the restaurant where he proposed to me, taking another woman on our anniversary. Stop. Coulter's composure finally cracked completely. This is insane. Geneva and I are just friends. Friends who live together. Lainey's voice never wavered. Friends who sleep in the same bed? Friends whose relationship began 3 months ago when you were still planning our wedding. The back door of the venue opened with a soft click. Geneva Blair stepped inside wearing a black dress and an expression of shocked betrayal. She'd come expecting to make her grand entrance during a ceremony, not to hear her private life exposed in front of a room full of strangers. Geneva! Coulter spun toward her, his face a mask of panic. What are you doing here? You said you were calling off the wedding. Geneva's voice carried clearly in the silence. You said we could make it public today. The crowd turned as one to stare at Geneva, then back at Coulter, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Well, Lainey said conversationally, I guess we're all making things public today. The venue erupted into chaos. Coulter's mother burst into tears, whether from embarrassment or heartbreak. Lainey couldn't tell. His father stood abruptly, his face thunderous as he stared at his son. Wedding guests pulled out phones, some recording the drama, others frantically texting updates to friends who'd missed the spectacle. Geneva pushed through the crowd toward the altar, her perfect composure finally cracking. You told me she knew. You said you'd already talked to her. Geneva, not here. Coulter reached for her, but she slapped his hand away. 3 months you've been lying to me about ending things with her. Geneva's voice rose above the crowd noise. 3 months I've been the other woman because you were too much of a coward to break up with your fiancé. That's not. I was trying to do it right. By ghosting her for 5 weeks. Geneva whirled to face Lainey. Did you know? About us. I found out 2 weeks in. Lainey's voice remained steady, even as satisfaction bloomed in her chest. Social media makes it hard to keep secrets. And you didn't say anything. I wanted to see how far he'd take the lie. Lainey looked between Geneva and Coulter, watching 3 months of deception collapse in real time. Turns out, pretty far. Geneva's face went pale as the implications hit her. You let me believe all this time I thought I was helping him leave you for me. You were helping him cheat on me with you. The words cut clean and sharp. There's a difference. Geneva's perfect facade crumbled. She looked from Lainey to Coulter to the crowd of wedding guests now openly staring, their phones capturing every moment of her humiliation. Without another word, she turned and fled through the back door. Coulter stood frozen in the center of the storm, his wedding suit suddenly looking like a costume for a play that had gone terribly wrong. Lainey, please. Can we talk privately? Work this out. Work what out? She gathered her evidence folder, her movements calm and precise. The lies? The cheating? The fact that you brought your girlfriend to what she thought was my public humiliation. I never meant for this to happen. You meant for all of it to happen. You just didn't mean to get caught. Lainey stepped closer, her voice dropping low enough that only he could hear. You wanted to have me and her. Keep me as backup while you figured out if she was worth the risk. Well, congratulations. You figured it out. Coulter's parents appeared at his side, his mother's tears replaced by steel-eyed fury. We're leaving, his father announced. This is a disgrace. Dad, wait. No. The older man's voice could have froze fire. Your mother and I raised you better than this. Fix your life, son, and stay away from that girl until you do. They walked out without looking back, followed by Coulter's brother and wedding party. One by one, the guests filtered toward the exit, their conversations a buzz of shock and speculation. Lainey found herself alone in the ceremony space, except for Riva, Deontay, and Harper, who had watched the entire drama unfold from their positions around the room. How do you feel? Riva asked, approaching carefully. Lainey considered the question seriously. She felt lighter than she had in months. Clean, like she'd been carrying a weight she hadn't realized was there until it was gone. Free, she said finally. I feel free. Her phone buzzed with notifications. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook clips of her speech were already spreading online, shared by guests who'd recorded the confrontation. The hashtag wedding speech girl was trending locally. This is going viral, Harper said, showing her his phone screen. People are calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. Lainey sat down in the front row, her wedding dress spreading around her like ivory water. I'm just someone who got tired of being lied to. 3 weeks later, Lainey sat in Deontay's jazz lounge, watching him play to a packed house. The viral wedding video had brought unexpected attention to everyone involved. Deontay's music was getting radio play. Riva had bookings scheduled 6 months out from people who'd seen her tattoo work in the background of news coverage, and Lainey had received 47 business inquiries from women-owned companies who wanted a designer brave enough to tell the truth. You're famous, Harper said, sliding into the booth beside her with 2 drinks. I'm notorious. There's a difference. She accepted the whiskey gratefully, though I can't complain about the business it's brought in. Speaking of business, Riva appeared with a portfolio under her arm. I have a proposal. She spread sketches across the table, logos, business cards, promotional materials, all centered around a phoenix rising from flames. Break free creative. Design and art collective for women rebuilding their lives. Lainey studied the designs, feeling something click into place. Partnership. Full partnership. You handle design and branding. I handle custom art and tattoos. Deontay provides venue space for workshops and events. Riva's eyes gleamed with possibility. Turn your 15 minutes of fame into something that actually helps people. I love it. Lainey traced the phoenix design with one finger. What about you? She asked Harper. Any interest in event planning? Catering coordination? Harper's shy smile transformed his entire face. You serious? Dead serious. We'll need someone who understands hospitality. Someone who's been through betrayal and came out stronger. She met his eyes directly. Someone I trust. The word hung between them, heavier than it should have been. Trust came hard for Lainey, earned through consistency and truth rather than grand gestures. Harper had proven himself worthy of it. There's one more thing. Riva pulled out a final sketch, a detailed back piece featuring a phoenix, with eyes wide open, flames forming intricate patterns around powerful wings. Your victory tattoo, if you want it. Lainey studied the design, imagining it inked across her shoulder blades, a permanent reminder that she'd chosen truth over comfort, strength over safety. When do we start? The legal papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier who looked apologetic for disturbing her coffee. Lainey signed for the envelope and read through Coulter's lawsuit with growing amusement. Defamation of character, intentional infliction of emotional distress, damage to professional reputation and future earning potential. He was suing her for telling the truth. "This is Rich," she told her lawyer over the phone an hour later. "He cheated on me publicly, and now he's claiming I damaged his reputation by talking about it. Can you prove everything you said at the wedding?" "I can prove more than I said at the wedding." Lainey pulled out the recording device she'd bought after Coulter returned from his 5-week disappearance, including his confession. "You recorded him?" "I recorded our conversation the morning he came back, when he admitted to seeing Geneva during the break and said he never meant for me to find out." The satisfaction in her voice was sharp and clear. "I also have Geneva's statement confirming their relationship timeline and about 30 witnesses who heard him confirm everything at the wedding." Her lawyer was quiet for a long moment. "This case won't make it to trial." "I know, but I'm countersuing anyway." "For what?" "Fraud, breach of contract, return of wedding expenses, and emotional damages." Lainey looked out the window of her new office space, watching Portland go about its Tuesday morning business. "And I want it on public record that he filed a frivolous lawsuit to silence a woman for telling the truth about his infidelity." The countersuit filed 3 days later made local news. #WeddingSpeechGirl was back in the headlines, this time as a woman fighting legal intimidation. Support poured in from strangers who'd been through similar betrayals, lawyers offering pro bono assistance and reporters wanting to cover the story. Coulter's lawsuit disappeared 2 weeks later, withdrawn without explanation. Her countersuit proceeded to a swift victory when he failed to contest the evidence. The judge awarded her full wedding expenses, emotional damages, and legal costs. "He's leaving town," Reva reported, settling into the window booth of their new office space. "Geneva too. Separate destinations." "Good." Lainey didn't look up from the logo she was designing for a women's shelter in Seattle. "Portland's better without them." "Any regrets?" Lainey considered the question seriously. She'd lost a 3-year relationship, a planned future, and the comfortable certainty of coupled life. But she'd gained something more valuable than knowledge that she could trust herself to choose truth over comfort, even when it hurt. "No," she said finally. "No regrets." The office door chimed, and Harper entered carrying coffee and the satisfied expression of someone with good news. "The gallery wants to extend your show another month. Sales have been incredible." Lainey's art exhibition, "The Break That Made Me," had opened to surprising success. Her illustrations of emotional recovery, strength through betrayal, and women rebuilding their lives resonated with viewers in ways she hadn't expected. "And there's something else." Harper set down her coffee with unusual ceremony. "Channel 8 wants to interview you for their Women's History Month special. They're calling you a role model for women facing relationship betrayal." "I'm not a role model," Lainey protested. "I just got mad enough to do something about it." "Sometimes that's enough," Reva said quietly. "Sometimes anger is exactly what the world needs." That evening, Lainey stood outside the gallery where her work was displayed, watching people move through the space, examining her illustrations. A young woman stopped in front of the final piece of Phoenix, rising from the ashes of a burned wedding dress, and pulled out her phone to take a picture. "Excuse me," the woman said, approaching Lainey. "You're the wedding speech girl, right?" For months, that label had followed her everywhere. The woman who exposed her cheating fiancé at their wedding. The viral video star. The cautionary tale about social media and public humiliation. But looking at this young woman's hopeful expression, Lainey realized something had shifted. She wasn't just the woman who'd been betrayed anymore. She was the woman who'd chosen herself over settled. "Actually," Lainey said, smiling for the first time in what felt like forever, "I'm the woman who ended hers before it began." The woman's answering grin was bright enough to power the entire gallery. Even better,